Hello guys and welcome to my channel Departure from the Usual. So today's shout out goes to Crystal Rosario. If you guys also want a shout out, then don't forget to subscribe my channel, like the video and comment down below. Let's move on to today's crime story. So guys, today I'm going to be talking about Pedro Alonso Lopez. Who was Pedro? So Pedro was born on October 8th, 1948 in Santa Isabel, Colombia. His father Medardo Reyes was a member of the country's right-wing party and who was killed in an armed conflict of that era. Pedro's mother Benilda was 3 months pregnant with her son at the time of his father's death. Pedro, who was reportedly the 7th child among 13 siblings, was polite as a boy and wanted to be a teacher, according to his mother. But Pedro later said his mother was physically abusive and a sex worker, who also was assaulted by clients. Some reports have claimed that he was kicked out of the house by Benilda after she found out that his son was molesting his younger sister, while other accounts say he ran away. Pedro traveled to Bogota, the capital city of Colombia, where he became one of the homeless children. He eventually joined a gang and smoked bazuco, an impure form of cocaine. While on the street, a stranger approached Pedro and offered him a bed, but instead took the youngster to an abandoned building and sexually assaulted him. When Pedro was 10 years old, he said that an elderly American couple found him on the streets and gave him a home, enrolling him at a school for orphans. But while there, Pedro was molested by a teacher when he was 12, and he thus ran away once again. At this point of time, Pedro was filled with vengeance for all his suffering as a child. Having grown up on the streets, he was arrested at 21 years old for stealing a car. Soon after his imprisonment, he was raped by at least 2 men and in retaliation killed his attackers with a makeshift knife. Accounts differ on whether he received additional jail time for the murders or not. Guys, upon his release from prison, it is believed that Pedro started to seek out young girls, usually of indigenous background and limited economic means. He made his way to Peru, where he would lure his victims to remote areas, committing rape and murder. He later reported that he murdered dozens during the mid to late 1970s. Pedro was caught by the Ayacuchos community when he attempted to kidnap a 9-year-old, with the group submitting him to tribal law and attempting to bury him alive. A Western missionary convinced tribe members to turn Pedro over to Peruvian police, who promptly deported him to Colombia without truly considering the crimes inflicted upon natives and the danger posed to society. Pedro continued the murders and by the late 70s had made his way to Ecuador, a country in South America, where scores of girls began to go missing as well. Families tried to find the girls on their own, with one mother putting ads in newspapers about her missing daughter. In the Ambato region in 1980, a vendor named Carlina and a group of her peers caught him in Ecuador when he attempted to lure Carlina's daughter from a busy market. Once Pedro was in police custody, he initially refused to cooperate with authorities until investigator Pastor Cordova went undercover as a fellow inmate. Gaining Pedro's trust, Pastor was able to get a confession from Pedro as well as details about sites where the victims were buried. Police ultimately unearthed 57 bodies. Coupled with his confessions, Pedro was charged with 110 murders. He claimed to have been responsible for around 200 more deaths in the neighboring countries of Peru and Colombia. On July 31, 1981, 33-year-old Pedro pled guilty to the murders of 57 girls and was imprisoned in Ambato, where he was officially diagnosed as a sociopath. Because of Ecuador's law, Pedro only received a maximum sentence of 16 years. On August 31st, 1994, Lopez was released from prison after serving 14 years. On August 31st, 1994, Pedro was released from prison after serving 14 years, having been released 2 years early for good behavior. He was summarily deported to Colombia, where authorities there attempted to convict him of a 2 decades-old murder. But instead, Pedro was declared insane and in 1995 institutionalized in a psychiatric facility. In February 1998, he was declared sane and released under $50 bail with additional stipulations. He visited his elderly mother, who said that he asked for his inheritance and then, upon being informed of her poverty, sold her sole bed and chair to people on the street. Pedro then vanished, with concerns having risen about his possible connection to a 2002 murder. His whereabouts are unknown. So guys, according to me, Pedro's past was the only reason of the crimes that he committed. Who would you blame? Pedro's mother, who was a sex worker and who kicked out her son from the house at a very young age? Or those policemen in Peru who deported him to Colombia rather than truly considering the crimes inflicted upon the natives of that place? Or the men who came in his life and raped him again and again? What are your opinions on this serial killer who is believed to have murdered more than 300 people? Please write down in the comments below. I'll meet you next time with another true crime story from around the world. Until then, signing off.